Hello everyone, this is Paushta Fashion Workshop. Today we continue showing you how to make a pair of jeans tighter. This is a very useful technique. I remind you that we need to make the waistband tighter. The width of the opening is 3 cm here at the top and 2 cm here at the bottom. I remind you that we're going to hide the seams under the belt loops. This is what we're doing now. We're measuring 3 cm at the top and 2 cm at the bottom. Natalie has marked the center of the dart. It's of the accurate width. It should be done this way for the seams to be hidden under the belt loops. Do the same thing here. Draw the first dart leg right in the center of the belt loop. Measure and mark 3 cm wide opening at the top and 2 cm wide opening at the bottom. Do not forget to mark the center of the dart. As I've already said, the darts are 3 cm wide at the top and 2 cm wide at the bottom. They will be hidden under the belt loops when they are stitched. This is how they are going to look like. There is one more waistband detail here. Lining. In order for the details to match, we need to pin them together. We need to mark 1 cm seam extensions in the darts. And then cut the extra pieces of fabric. Cut both the main fabric and the lining together. If you work this way, it won't be necessary to mark the openings in the lining. Do the same thing on the other side. Natalie doesn't even need to draw 1 cm wide seam extension for cutting. You can mark the top and the bottom of the details. There is no need for us to do it. Let's go to the sewing machine to stitch the darts both in the main fabric and the lining. I remind you that the width of the seam is 1 cm. The extension is the same both in the main fabric and the lining. Natalie decided to stitch the same dart in the lining right away in order not to make mistakes. She's going to stitch the first dart in the lining. Next, we need to do the same thing on the other side. Be very attentive. Make sure that you stitch the details accurately. Have a close look at the way Natalie has pinned the details. All the lines should match. This is very important. This is how the stitch details look like from the right side and from the wrong side. They're not even seen in this fabric. Let's go to the ironing desk. Do not forget to cut the angles from the seams. Pay attention to the seams both in the lining and the main fabric. It should be done for the details not to be too thick when they're stitched together. When we iron the details, we'll start stitching the waistband back as it was. The seams in the waistband should be pressed open. We decided not to make just one wide opening here, because the waistband isn't straight. If we made just one wide opening here, on the center back, the waistband would have changed its width. As I've already said, the technique depends on the design of the pair of jeans you're working with. I think that these are very useful tutorials. Be very attentive when ironing the seams. Natalie has ironed the top of the waistband for stitching. Anyway, we're going to stitch it in the very end. First, we're going to stitch the bottom detail, the part which is attached to the garment. First, we're going to stitch the main fabric, then the lining, and only after that we're going to stitch the top part of the detail. We're going to show you how to do it. First, we need to pin the details. The center of the waistband should be pinned to the center back. This is the seam which is going to be stitched later. We've pinned both the main fabric and the lining. This is how the pin details look like now. They should be stitched with just one seam. We're going to tag the seam for stitching. It should be done for the seam to be accurate. We need to get right in the original seam. Let's tag the pin seam. We've just tagged 3 layers of fabric together, 2 waistband details, and the lower part of the garment. We need to turn the detail right side out to make sure that the seam is accurate. Natalie is working accurately. There is no doubt about it. Next, we're going to stitch the waistband details to the garment with just one seam. This is what Natalie is doing now. She is stitching right according to the taking. We usually stitch jeans differently, but now we stitch the details the way they were originally stitched. We're not changing anything. Very nice. We need to remove the taking. Next, we need to top stitch the seam. Make sure that the details are flat before stitching them together. We can start stitching now. Stitch right in the original seam. This is very important. Be very attentive when top stitching the seams. Pay special attention to the thick details. We've top stitched the waistband. Next, we need to stitch back the label and all the other details. The label should be stitched just to the lining. The seam shouldn't be seen on the right side. We've stitched the label back. Next, we need to iron it. We haven't fixed the seam when top stitching the waistband. It should be fixed to the wrong side, just like the ones in the darts. Insert the threads in the needle and fix the seam on the wrong side.
Это мы сейчас закрепляем отделочную строчку.
We need to iron the waistband. Watch the way Natalie is pinning the waistband for stitching.
Чтобы соединить его одной строчкой.
We've pinned the top of the waistband in such way that the lining isn't seen from the right side. Next, we need to stitch the top of the waistband. We're stitching the top of the waistband from the right side. By doing so, we're stitching the main fabric and the lining together. Natalie pinned the details for stitching. You can tag them if you want. Be very attentive when stitching the thick details. Do not fix the seam when stitching. Do it just like in the other details. It's very convenient to work with this needle for people with vision problems. That's it. Natalie has stitched the waistband. Next, we need to stitch these details. We're going to do it with a special sewing machine for stitching strong fabrics. We'll do it off the camera. That's it. Have a look here. The darts are hidden right under the belt loops. We need to iron the details one more time. These darts look as if they were here originally. That's it. We've made this pair of jeans tighter. I hope that the customer will be satisfied with the result. I'm glad that we had a chance to show you this useful technique. That's all for today. Be different and beautiful. We're Ira and Natalie. Subscribe to this channel. Thank you. Goodbye.